Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going beyond those little sound bites. We're really diving into Jordan B. Peterson's Beyond Order. And
Yeah,
you've shared some really interesting excerpts. Seems like you're really looking for that deep understanding of his ideas
right.
on things like social structures, how we grow, facing those things we don't really want to.
And I think what makes it even more compelling with this book is Peterson, he wasn't writing it from, like an ivory tower.
Right.
He was dealing with some serious personal stuff as he was writing this, like
Yeah.
his wife's illness, his own health struggles.
See stuff.
Adds a whole other level, I think, to his exploration of order and chaos.
It's like he's saying, listen, I'm not just talking about this. This is my life. It makes you want to really listen, right? So let's dig into one of the ideas you highlighted, this whole idea of respecting established hierarchies. But then at the same time, he's saying we should challenge them too.
Right.
It's like, which one is it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Because he's not saying just blindly follow.
Right.
Or just rebel against everything.
Okay.
It's more of a dance between the two, Like respecting the existing structures, the traditions, the institutions, this is how we do things.
Right.
Because they represent this kind of, accumulated wisdom.
Right.
And this is important, he's not saying they're perfect.
Yeah.
Or that they can't change.
Right. So it's like appreciating the game and the rules, but also knowing sometimes we got to change the rules.
Right.
Or maybe even the game.
Exactly. He uses this analogy of a beginner, someone who's just starting out in something new.
Okay.
And there's humility in that.
Right.
That willingness to learn the ropes
Yeah.
before you try to reinvent everything.
Yeah.
And Peterson, he argues that this approach, this mastering the fundamentals, it can actually open up things you never even thought of.
Yeah.
He tells this story about a waiter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. It's like it totally goes against that whole
Yeah.
don't dream too small thing, This waiter just decided he was going to be amazing
Exactly.
at being a waiter.
Totally crush it in that moment. And it's interesting because
Did it work?
it did. He gets promoted multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's a great example of how that apprenticeship, even if it doesn't seem glamorous,
Right.
it can lead to things you never expected.
So think about that. Wherever you are listening right now, are there places in your life where, leaning into that apprenticeship, that mastery of the basics, might open some doors?
Yeah.
It's not always about the end goal, right? It's about, the becoming.
The process.
Yeah, and that idea of becoming, it ties right into how Peterson sees us forming our beliefs, how we engage with the world, and in particular, his thoughts on temperament,
Yeah.
which he kind of goes into some maybe controversial areas. He says people have this natural inclination towards a more conservative or liberal outlook.
And it's important to note, he's not saying it's set in stone.
Right.
Like you're stuck.
Right.
More that we all have these tendencies, right?
Right.
That color how we see things.
And this is big. He's really clear that no matter what those leanings are, we have a choice in how we engage with them.
Absolutely. He's all about self-awareness.
Right.
Taking ownership of how that temperament, whatever it is, might be playing into our beliefs.
Don't just wear it as a label.
Exactly. Like conservative, liberal. He even uses learning styles.
Huh, interesting.
He's like, just because it's a popular idea
Right, everyone's saying it.
doesn't mean it's above being questioned.
Challenge everything,
Yeah.
even if it makes you a little uncomfortable.
Especially if it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, I love that. So this all leads us to one of Peterson's kind of favorite tools for understanding ourselves, understanding the world,
Right.
stories.
Yes.
And not bedtime stories.
Yeah.
We're talking deep stuff.
Maps of meaning.
Yeah. These big truths about what it means to be human. And he goes into this fascinating analysis of the seeker archetype
Oh, yeah.
from Harry Potter.
Yeah,
He connects that to mystery.
he does. And it seems kind of out there, but
It's like, okay, Harry Potter, ancient gods, I'm here for it. How does this all connect?
so he's drawing these parallels between figures like Mercury, the messenger god,
Okay.
but also trickery, thievery,
Yeah.
and then these archetypes like the seeker, which is that drive to find something deeper,
Right.
even in what seems ordinary.
Yeah, it's like, pay attention. There might be magic hiding. You just got to know where to look.
Exactly. It's about finding that snitch, that extraordinary meaning in the everyday stuff. And that ties into, another big idea in Beyond Order, this idea of having the courage to face what we'd rather not. And he illustrates this with this ancient myth,
Okay.
Osiris, Isis, and Horus.
Mythology time. Okay, so that one's a bit of a, it's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So give me the Spark Notes version. What's the main point and why should we care?
Okay, so picture this. Osiris, king of the gods, right? He gets murdered by his own brother, Set, out of jealousy.
Brutal.
Right. So his wife, Isis, she's devastated, obviously, but she manages to find his body.
Okay.
Which, by the way, has been chopped up into pieces.
Ugh, even more brutal.
Right. So she uses her willpower and, I guess, a little bit of magic to bring him back to life.
Okay.
But he's not whole. Osiris is missing an eye, which is this really powerful symbol, represents what he's lost.
Yeah.
And their son, Horus, he eventually, avenges his father. And in doing so, he reclaims that lost eye.
Wow, intense family drama. But what's the takeaway here for those of us who aren't, battling jealous gods on a daily basis?
Well, that eye, it's about more than just, physical sight. It's about having the courage to see the truth.
Okay.
Even when it hurts. Even when it's something we don't want to see. And Peterson, he connects this to his clinical work.
Right.
Tells a story about this patient who had a deep fear of death.
Oh, right. Didn't he encourage her to witness an embalming?
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading that and I was like, whoa, that's a little much.
Intense, right. But also really powerful because she chose to face that fear head on.
Yeah.
And in doing so, she completely shifted her perspective on life and death. It's like she reclaimed her own eye,
She could see clearly.
Exactly.
Even when it was something that terrified her.
Right. So for anyone listening, ask yourself, what abyss am I avoiding? It doesn't have to be something huge.
Right.
What could you reclaim? That ability to see clearly if you just faced it head on.
It's like a call to be brave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Because on the other side of that is a deeper understanding.
Yeah.
Of yourself, of the world.
Exactly. And Peterson, he's very real about the fact that life involves suffering. He doesn't sugarcoat it.
No, he's not about that good vibes only approach.
No.
So what does he say we should do about it?
He's clear that pretending everything's perfect, that's not the answer.
Okay.
It's about striving for the best possible while also taking responsibility, even for the things other people ignore.
That sounds incredibly hard.
It's not easy.
Almost impossible. How can we be expected to single-handedly fix everything wrong in the world?
Right, and he's not saying, become Superman overnight. He actually uses this example of a client who decided to, revamp his office.
Okay.
Make it more beautiful, more inspiring.
Sounds like a win-win.
Right, making things better for everyone. But his colleagues, they weren't into it.
Really? Why not? Seems like a good thing.
They resisted the change, even though it was an improvement, objectively. And Peterson, he connects this to some research by Robert Sapolsky.
Okay.
He's a primatologist who studied wildebeest. And he found that wildebeest, they avoid standing out.
Right, because if they're the odd one out, they're more likely to get picked off by a lion or something.
Exactly. It's a survival thing.
Wow. So, in a way, sticking your neck out, even if you have good intentions, can be risky.
And Peterson suggests that, us humans, we do the same thing. We're afraid to rock the boat, even when it means we might miss out on something better.
So we stay stuck.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And it can stifle creativity, progress.
Even when we're trying to do the right thing.
Sometimes, yeah.
So where do we draw the line? How do we know when to play it safe and when to stick our necks out?
That's the question, isn't it? It's about finding that balance, knowing when to follow the rules, when to challenge them, and when to say, this matters enough to me, I'm doing it anyway. And this is where he brings in another powerful tool, gratitude.
He's not talking about that cheesy, everything happens for a reason kind of gratitude, is he? Because let's be real.
Right.
Sometimes life just sucks.
No. He sees it as a practice, something you do, even when things are tough.
Okay, I can get behind that.
He talks about family gatherings.
Yeah.
That mix of being happy and sad at the same time, especially as people get older, or maybe they're dealing with stuff.
It's like you're laughing, remembering the good times, but there's this sadness there too.
Exactly. And those moments can be hard. But he's saying, choosing to see the good in those moments, even with the hard stuff mixed in, that's gratitude.
It's like life's not always going to be perfect, right?
Right.
It's messy. But finding those things to be grateful for, even when it's hard, that's what helps us appreciate the good even more.
Well said. And it makes me think about when Peterson himself was sick, how grateful he was for everyone who helped him.
Yeah.
His family, his friends, even people he didn't know sending those messages. It really showed the power of connecting, even when things are dark.
Yeah, for sure. And that actually touches on a bigger point he makes about meaning, about purpose.
Okay.
It's like he challenges this idea of find yourself, follow your bliss. Like, that's the goal.
Right, which is everywhere now.
It's like self-care, self-improvement. It's all about me, me, me. And we kind of forget there's a whole world out there.
It's easy to get stuck there. And Peterson's saying real fulfillment, a life that actually means something.
Yeah.
It comes from stepping up,
Okay.
taking ownership of the problems we see, not just focusing on ourselves. And he uses this example from the Bible, the story of Abraham.
Oh, right. The guy who God told to drop everything and go on this crazy journey.
Exactly. Talk about a leap of faith. And it wasn't easy for him. Peterson makes that clear. Lots of hardship, uncertainty, moments where he's got to be thinking, what am I doing? But it's through all that, facing those challenges, that he becomes this huge figure.
The fathers of the nation.
Right. A symbol of resilience, of faith. And it's not about seeking comfort, avoiding the hard stuff. It's saying, okay, life's throwing this at me. How can I grow from it? And not just you, personally, but in a way that impacts everyone.
It's bigger than just us.
Yeah. He even says that willingness to take on responsibility, that's the antidote to that feeling of like cynicism, despair, those things that drag us down.
Instead of asking what's in it for me, it's how can I help? What can I do? Even if it's small.
Exactly. That's what he leaves us with. Where do you see that opportunity to step up, to own it, whatever it is? Big or small, doesn't matter.
It's a call to action, almost. Like, you're not just here to exist, you're here to make a difference.
Powerful, right?
It is. It's like the world can feel overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
But he reminds us we have a choice
Right.
to step up, take responsibility,
Yeah.
make things better. And that is something we could all use a little more of.
Couldn't agree more.